How's everybody doing? Good. Good to see you. All right. How we doing?
When you sat down with Daryl Ballard, what was it about his offense that kind of fit your philosophy for that side of the ball?
Yeah, I think he's obviously someone I have a great deal of respect for, playing against him and some of the bigger stages of our game. And one of the things that's great about him is just kind of his experience through the different systems he's been in, and he's been able to evolve and adapt, many different offenses to fit the quarterbacks that he's been around. Obviously, coming up through the Green Bay, Minnesota, with the quarterbacks that he had through those years there, and then obviously on to Seattle with Russell Wilson. Just really thought from a personality standpoint, philosophy standpoint, very similar to, what we're trying to get done in Detroit. So it's really good conversation, Didn't really know him until I spent a couple days with him, and just kind of everything clicked from that standpoint. So it was great.
Coach, along with the offense, what does it mean to have a really good tight end, however you get one?
Sure.
From a defensive standpoint, what kind of pressure does it put on you or something?
Yeah, tight ends are definitely part of the game right now that defensively it makes it real difficult, to try to game plan against. The guys that can do multiple things are obviously more difficult, or those players that, have a certain skill set that you have to defend against one way or the other can kind of put you in some bind. So we're going to do the best we can to try to, obviously improve that situation for us, whether it's through free agency or the draft. We're, looking at those guys pretty hard and, trying to make sure we get somebody in there that puts as much stress on the defense as possible. Go ahead. Totally was not part of the conversation at all. So I think there was a mutual kind of just eye connection that said, we're not going to talk about that and we'll just move on to now. I think obviously, we had quite a few issues all together, across the board. So I think, the guys in that position played really hard. And I think as the year went on, I think we've got a little bit more comfortable with some of the production that we could get out of that position. And that was great to see, and kind of, hopefully we can build on that going forward.
Matt, what stood out to you about Brian Flores, spending time working together, and what do you expect this team to look like?
Yeah, obviously, love B-Flow, was with him for a real long time, worked real closely, and just wish him the best of luck down in Miami. I think he's going to do a great job, and, obviously cherished our time working together, but, I'll let him worry about the Dolphins. I'm trying to focus on the Lions right now. He's really smart. He's a hard worker. He's a great guy. He really relates to the players outstandingly, and to people in general. I think he's got a great mannerism about him. So just a good person.
Matt, you talked about the 360 evaluation of the team program. What stood out about this, your biggest deficiencies last year and your biggest strengths?
Yeah, good question. I mean, there's so many different areas that we've looked at and we've discussed, and kind of still pretty much moving through that process. I think we definitely, from the team standpoint, like we mentioned kind of at the end of the year, thought there were some strong points on offense with us being able to run the ball, and I thought, from a defensive perspective, being able to stop the run was a good starting point for us, and special teams wise covering kicks. So we'll try to build on those areas and go from there and maintain those and try to improve some of the other areas that obviously weren't as good as we looked at it from an on the field production standpoint. I think overall we look at the process, we look at our schedule, we look at all different things, and we're still kind of just putting together different ideas and thoughts, and then we'll actually kind of circle back at a later date. And there's guys on the team that either have different experience levels or different, opinions or thoughts, and I'll actually kind of circle back to them a little bit and kind of get some more thoughts from them as far as what they think could help us moving forward from that standpoint. I have a lot to improve on. I think for me, it's just, second time around with all this, it's actually, it's good. Obviously being in the same exact spot last year is kind of a whirlwind. You're drinking from the fire hose there, as they say, and this time we're a little bit ahead of the game. It was such a kind of a rush last year. We're in the same spot. That's what's great about the NFL. Every part of the season, the months, they're all the same. You do the same process. You just try to get better at them each year.
Matt, starting to take a look at the draft now. Where do you see us maybe some of its points?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, there's, I would say there's some defensive players in there that are impact type of guys that we'll see how they fall, that they could help us. And then I would say in the offensive skill position, whether it's receiver, tight end, however you want to look at it, there's definitely some dynamic playmakers out there. So we'll continue to evaluate all those guys as we go through the process. The good thing about now and, kicking off the combine is it's a great, first look at us to see them live. We got a little bit of a chance during the Senior Bowl to see some of these guys. And then, as we go through, what's interesting is, it'll change all in a month. Everything kind of as you do your process and evaluate these guys and get a chance to talk to them a little bit more and dig deeper, it all kind of shifts, which is the fun part of it, from our standpoint.
Matt, with Ryan in Miami and you in Detroit with Bob and the guys in Tennessee,
Yeah, that's a great question and something I remember. Probably the mid 2000s, kind of the same situation sort of came up, and some of the schemes were the same. I would say there's probably more of a variance now than there was back then. I think some of the schemes were exactly the same. I would say everyone's kind of learned and shifted a little bit. So I would say not as much as what we went through maybe in the mid 2000s. That definitely was a situation there. The mid 2000s, end 2000s, there was just a lot of teams. There was actually kind of two different schemes at that point that were similar. So they were looking for a lot of the same bodies and the same people, and I would say it's a little bit different now.
So where do you stand on whether replay should be expanded?
Yeah, for me, it's great. I just kind of let the competition committee, go through all that process, and I'm just trying to do the best I can to coach the rules as they're laid out for us, so that our players can play at a high level. So I'll let all that discussion take place, and then when we get to it, when it's appropriate for us, we'll have those internal discussions. It'll be great.
You've talked a bunch of times about how you're not really a 4-3, 3-4, and some
Yep.
packages sort of base. Does that change how you evaluate guys, what types of time, numbers?
Yeah, it is. And, I think one of the things about the league that's always interesting is you're always trying to predict the curve, where it's coming from and what's going to happen next. And we're probably close to another change. So we'll see where it goes the next couple of years. I think for us, let's say defensively, a lot of it is dictated by the offense and where they go. And I think some of that's dictated by the college game, just the guys coming out and what's available to the offenses. And I think the offensive coaches do a great job adapting to the players they have. So, I would say that again. I still kind of a sub game. That's really what it is, and we can transfer in between 3-4 and 4-3, and really whatever it takes for us to try to be successful in those situations is what we're going to try to do. And the good thing about saying that it's a sub game is there's a lot of different sub packages, and that are not categorized as 3-4 or 4-3. It's sub, so there's a lot of different entities within that, which is nice. So it just makes us multiple and flexible from that standpoint. I'm saying I think the league is, as it goes through, there'll be something that comes up that teams gravitate towards that they feel is really effective offensively, and it's a little bit of a copycat league from that aspect, so you'll see a lot more of those styles come into play and move in that direction. So, we'll see what it is. We try to, stay ahead of it the best we can. I have a couple thoughts, yeah.
One of those styles.
Nope.
Is that hitting passing game? Everybody's getting the ball up.
Sure.
It's important to find those interior guys that can get upfield and disrupt quickly because that's the short pass.
You know what? On quick passing game, though, I would say I'd probably disagree. I'd say there's a little bit more of a power rush involved with that, right? Because the ball's coming out so fast, and you want to try to collapse the pocket from that standpoint and get as much pressure on the quarterback. So it depends, though. I wouldn't say it's all necessarily like a three-step drop or a quick passing game. The ball's just coming out fast in some of the routes and some of the route read and progressions. I'd say the quarterbacks do a great job of just, understanding what the coverage is, finding the space, and just making decisions quicker. That's really what you see from that standpoint. Still a drop-back game, but the decisions are coming out really fast. I know, Nate, you got a question. Go ahead.
You talked about Darryl working with Russell Wilson, getting Sean Ryan working with Deshaun Watson.
Yep. And Eli Manning. Yep.
Right. But is mobility something that you want to bring a little bit more to that position?
Yeah. Good question. Obviously, part of all the backgrounds from the coaching standpoint, and really, Stafford too. He has athletic ability, so we'll see where that goes as far as what it fits, and we'll try to do everything we can. The great part about this, and the great thing about Bevel, is that he's so adaptive to what is best for the players that we have, and the quarterback position being obviously the most critical. So we'll start there and we'll build. We'll go from there, and it's not a situation where I'd say it's hard to find like this is exactly what it is, because we want to grow it as as the Lions offense, and I think that's what's important.
Coach, what's your impression of Carry On? Do you think he could be the lead guy in his package?
I think obviously Carry On was a great player for us last year and did made some huge strides to kind of take over the role of what he had, and we'll look for a big improvement coming this year. We'll see. It's always a big jump from year one to year two. It's a hard thing for players coming out of their rookie season to try to it's not from a defensive perspective. You look at those guys and you're not going to be surprised anymore. I think for the first part of the season, I knew that we would kind of maybe surprise some people with Carry On and be able to get an advantage there a little bit. So we tried to play to those strengths the best we could. But once you get a full season or a season of film on tape, a lot of defensive coaches are going to, they're going to dive into that pretty hard and try to take them away. So we're just going to have to do the best we can to, try to do what we can with them to make them as productive as we did last year. And, we'll see. It's like I said, it's a big growth year from year one to year two.
They mentioned a couple of assistants too. You had a lot of turnovers. What do you attribute that to? Was that just getting a head start?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's turnover in the league every year, whether it's players or coaches. That's not anything that's uncommon. So we're always kind of just, it is what it is, and we prepare for it and we move forward. So, we're in the process right now of building our staff and adding pieces as we go. And once we get all of that completed, we'll announce all of them at once. It's just kind of easier from that standpoint. Go ahead. I mean, again, it's hard to say exactly like, hey, this is the compliment to carry on, because he does a couple different things pretty well. I think for us, it's just about trying to find balance in all the players that we have, and certainly competition. I think at that point will take care of itself from once we get through the spring and through training camp, and as we move towards the season. What do we think best balances out our offense as overall players? The good thing with carry on is he kind of can do a couple different things, which is good. He's not just kind of in one area, if that makes any sense. Go ahead. Yeah, well, you know what? Absolutely, it's a great conversation piece. I think hopefully, as coaches and players, we're all trying to make a jump every single year. And a rookie player from college to the NFL, that's a huge jump. And certainly from my position, when you go from a coordinator position into a head coaching position, it's a huge jump. You're working with a lot more different variables of the club. So hopefully, I can do that too. But that's a great point.
And how important is tackling for you in cornerbacks, and how do you balance that? You're drafted to cover a lot.
Sure. Yeah, you know what? It's a great point and a great conversation piece. I put a high priority on tackling just in general for our team, and I don't think we can change that depending on whatever position it is. But you got to try to find the right balance, because obviously, the biggest thing they got to do is be able to cover in those situations. But understand that some other players on the other side of the ball are pretty good too. They're going to catch the ball, and what you want to make sure that happens is that they're tackled right away and they don't turn those plays, whatever they are, into bigger plays. So it's kind of a good balance of both. We'll see. We'll see who's going to be the starters next year when we get there. It'll be competition all the way through. But I think he's someone that made a lot of great strides through the past year. Another guy for us that was a rookie going into his second year, so he's going to have to continually build on that. But definitely a guy, we identified coming out in the draft that we thought really had a couple good different skill sets that we could utilize. And we're going to try to, expand on that the best we can, because there's a couple things that he can do that maybe he didn't get an opportunity to do last year that maybe we saw in practice or in some of those one-on-one drills that, maybe is something going forward that we can utilize him for. We'll see. We'll see how it all pans out.
Coach, what do you think of the seasons that Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay had, specifically after the Golden Tate trade?
I think, as a team for us last year, we're trying to do everything we could to improve as the season went on. And obviously, Marvin, tried to take a couple strides, but, unfortunately got hurt as we went through the year and couldn't finish it out. And Kenny, I think, made some huge strides. I really think he did a good job and put him in probably some positions that he hadn't been in before from a receiver alignment standpoint. And we thought those were good and productive, and they were. And, we just got to continue to build on it, and try to take the positives and get better going forward. But talking about two great guys, two competitors, two outstanding wide receivers that, we'll obviously be counting on moving forward.
Where do you think Kenny is kind of in his trajectory of his talent curve?
I mean, it's hard to really say, from that standpoint. I think the message last year, as far as Kenny was consistent, it was it's going to be different for him. He's going to see some different coverages. He's going to see some different looks. And so we tried to combine that with some different alignments and some different formations, things to help him out. So now it's putting all of those pieces together in the next year and understanding what those look like. That'll really be the next step. And, that'll be a process we'll start as soon as we can get back to work with him.
And as far as Marvin, you think just as soon as he's healthy, you expect the same old Marvin Jones we've always seen?
I mean, we'll obviously see what the entire team looks like next year when we get out there. Everyone's in a situation where they got to go out and reestablish. I think the NFL, what's great about it is every year is a new year, and every position is new, and the guys are out there working real hard. But I know that Marvin is working extremely hard right now to get back and be ready to go, and that's all we can ask for him to do, and then he'll go out and just continue to push forward. So, we're just real excited about that, and those two guys are two great guys to work with. Sure. I mean, I think that always helps if you have guys that can win one-on-one situations. I think many players have proven that that's effective. But, it'll be what it is. And whether the case may be in that, we'll always try to generate pressure on the quarterback. I think those guys that are just those players that win purely one-on-one in those pass rush situations are very special guys. It's no different than receivers that can win in one-on-one situations or DBs that can cover in one-on-one situations. Those are special skill sets, and we're always trying to find them anytime we can. So.